So we're go ahead and go on our nightly commute, and we're going to talk about a couple things that Lyric actually kind of try to say in my belt video. Essentially, they were mentioning the Gates belt system, and I did say gated by mistake, but I actually meant Gates. But the Gates belt system was actually and it came out when the BBS HD was first around. So it pretty much was made for mid-drive systems. Not to say over the years, of course, you know, as hub drive systems became more popular, they obviously adapted the system, and you can also use the Gates belt system with a hub drive, no doubt. But mainly the benefits of the Gates belt system, and pretty much what people were using it for, was for the Nexus, the other internal hub systems and stuff like that, where pretty much the internal hub system that has the, you know, derailleur function pretty much built into the hub itself with gears and stuff like that. And essentially, instead of just using a regular spindle on your back wheel, you use this internal gear hub system and stuff like that, and it's low maintenance. And when the Gates belt system came out, people were making sprockets and stuff like that, actually, so you can be able to combine the both, which makes for an awesome system. You know what I mean? Because now you got true no maintenance pretty much, because you're not having an oil or derailleur or, you know, degrease, you know, chains, and then also the groups and stuff like that, because everything's internal into that internal gear hub system. And also you have a belt instead of a chain and stuff like that. And that's the whole reason why the Gates belt system became pretty much popular. Now, I'm not saying to issue with the Lyric graffiti. I never said there was a design flaw or anything like that using it. I just said it's kind of pointless to go ahead and use a system like that, because, for example, if your battery dies out on the Lyric graffiti, you're gonna have to pedal it back. And the problem is by them using a single gear sprocket in with a belt, and they're not using the Gates belt system, they're actually using someone else though, but they are using a belt system though. What will happen is you will have to pedal it back, and only having one gear is kind of 2 steps backwards essentially. Yeah, sure, you made, you know, no maintenance essentially, you know, by using the belt, but also you took away the derailleur and everything else and all your gears and stuff like that. So if you actually want to go ahead and pedal this thing, it's going to be pretty hard to, because you only got a single gear. So if you're going up any inclines or any steep hills and stuff like that, you can pretty much forget about it. Just because, you know, it's going to be hard to do pretty much and stuff like that. And that was my whole point on it. Pretty much I would rather them just kept the chain and derailleur and stuff like that. Then that way you can actually pedal back if the battery dies, because if you got to take a 90-pound bike and that's what the bike weighs, it's going to be very hard to do with just a single sprocket pretty much and so forth. And that's why I think they kind of screwed up on that. I know they were trying to make it maintenance free and stuff like that, but at the same time too, you took away kind of a critical function of an e-bike, especially a 90-pound e-bike. And good luck trying to get it uphill if you kill your battery with that system, because you're pretty much going to be walking it up that hill. You're not going to be able to pedal it down, even if you are a pro cyclist and stuff like that, because you only got a single, you know, gear, instead of having, you know, where you go to the larger gear on a regular bike and stuff like that, and you'll be able to pedal it up a steep hill no problem essentially. And then you got to remember, the bike is 90 pounds, plus you got a, you know, direct drive, heavy direct drive hub motor in the rear and stuff. That also causes this weight disadvantage and stuff like that, and it's gonna make it kind of a pain in the neck if you actually have to pedal that thing uphill, and you're gonna be pretty much walking it. And that's the problem with it. So if your battery dies out, and let's say you're about 5-6 miles out, which is a typical commute and stuff like that, good luck in getting that bike back essentially and stuff like that. You're better off, what do you call it, asking for a tow and stuff like that, because, you know, it's gonna be very hard to, of course, actually go ahead and pedal it up. Like, for example, this hill we're climbing up there, imagine if I lost all power on this bike and I had to pedal this bike up there and stuff like that with just a single sprocket, which is obviously gonna be geared for faster top speed and stuff like that. And you know, I don't have the ability to use the easier, larger gear to climb up this hill. Well, you're gonna be walking it, and that's the only way you're gonna be able to get the bike up a hill like this, because you're not gonna have the power or the strength to be able to pedal up this long going up a hill and stuff like that. So that's the problem with it. But you know, if you're on mostly flat and stuff like that, then I guess it'll be fine. Like if you're riding it on mostly flat ground and stuff like that. But let's face it, most people are not gonna be riding it on just strictly flat ground. You're gonna have hills and slope and stuff like that, especially in most states and stuff. And you know, it's gonna be a massive disadvantage and so forth. And that's what I was pretty much stating. Now the second thing is the battery issue, which Lyric themselves actually did confirm they are not using no balancer. So it's just not the people actually saying it. Lyric themselves actually said they're not using no balancer and stuff like that. And all I can say is wow, you know what I mean? Because you essentially create a design flaw with the bike essentially, because now that you're just paralleling bike, which is the only other option that's actually around right now and stuff like that, and you're just pairing one of the two batteries. Now of course, if you got the batteries at the same state of charge and stuff like that, it's probably not gonna be a problem. Not everyone's gonna be going back. Some people are e-bike enthusiasts and know better than to do that, and they know to keep both batteries at the same state of charge, and since they're the same capacity, it'll be fine. But a lot of people are new to e-bikes are not gonna know that essentially, especially if you're not technically savvy and stuff like that. And they're gonna go ahead and, let's just say, even, you know, people that are seasoned to that and would actually know that are actually gonna go ahead and, let's just say, you know, for example, turn off one battery or forget to turn off the other battery and so forth, or forget to charge one battery instead of the other. So then now you gotta, you know, imbalance exactly. Pretty much one battery's at 52 volt, the other battery's at 58 volt, let's just say. And when you go on and switch that other battery on, it's gonna send all that current to the other battery, of course, to try to equalize it and stuff like that. And that's where it's gonna be, you know, kind of a pain in the neck essentially. So yeah, they kind of, you know, screwed up on that one essentially. So 'cause I could see a lot of people blowing the BMS in one of the batteries just because of that reason alone and stuff like that. And they're gonna have a lot of, you know, battery packs that are gonna be essentially failing. So like whether it'll catch fire or not, probably not, because they got a BMS and you'll probably likely just blow the BMS before you actually do the cells and stuff like that. But you are gonna have a lot of bad battery packs due to this. Like I said, the easiest way to avoid that is to make sure the batteries are at the same state of charge and stuff like that, or use one battery at the time, and then you don't have to worry about that issue and stuff like that. But let's face it, wheel war, people are not always gonna remember to do that, and that's when you're gonna run into problems and stuff like that. So hopefully you don't. Hopefully yours will actually hold up and stuff like that. Now they also talk about, oh, I really hate them now and stuff like that, and that's the reason why I do it. No, I do it because, you know, they lied on the specs, you know what I mean? They overpromised something and undelivered pretty much, and you know, that's the problem, you know, huh? Now I don't have to have the bike to know that it was going to perform, and I was actually kind of dead on right, especially after seeing the performance of what one guy did on the actual production bike and stuff like that. And it performs actually pretty bad. It can't take off you know, exactly fast on a from a dead stop. Like, let me just go on a dead stop on this one. All right, I got dead stop here. All right, we'll go down to 0, and this is a mid drive. Okay, so it's gonna have a lot of torque. All right, and then we're just gonna go ahead and go, you know, fast. Hopefully the odometer picks up quick, but you can see that picked up speed pretty quickly. On the performance, when he was just trying to go to 8 miles, it took him almost half the block to actually get up to the 8 miles. And then eventually, once he got to the midpoint, it started accelerating faster, which is what you expect from a direct drive. Direct drives do not have good low-end torque unless it's a high torque motor. Now there is motors that are direct drives that have a lot of torque, more than even most direct mid drives have and stuff like that. Like you got the QS205, and so forth, and those have a lot of torque. Those are designed and rounded for high torque essentially and stuff like that. And on my 5,000 watt, I can go up a hill and I can go up at 50 miles an hour. You know what I mean? No problem. And if you go ahead and hit that throttle and you hit it too fast, that bike will take off under you. That's how much torque you have on that bike. So that's one of the benefits of having a high torque direct drive. Not all direct drives have a lack of torque and stuff like that. It's only you know, direct drives that are not rounded for high torque and that are lower power essentially. Now, as far as what you know, what the actual continuous wattage is, from what people have been telling me, and if I go by what people have been saying, it's 16 to 1860, let's say. So that's gonna be your continuous power for that motor sack. It's still short of the 2,500 watts continuous as they claim, and they said, oh yeah, people are getting 4,700 peak, and there's no one that said they got 4,700 peak. The most someone said was they got 4,000 peak when they had you know, when they were pretty much torturing the bike just to see what it could do, and they put 2 heavy people on it on purpose just to see what the power would draw, and the most they could get out of it was 4,000 peak for a brief second and stuff like that before the controller actually cut out, because obviously it couldn't handle that weight. But yeah, you're not getting no 4,000 peak, and everyone that I talked to says that they're seeing on average anywhere from 15 to 1860 watts on the actual meter itself. So that's another thing too, and I said that from the very first video. That's pretty much what it was gonna be, and that's exactly what it is pretty much, you know what I mean? And then the other proof to it too is if it was actually pushing out 2,500 watts and was a 2,500 watt direct drive motor, then that thing should have 120 newton meters of torque and stuff like that, and it does not clearly. You know what I mean? As a 95 newton meter torque bike will actually outperform as far as the low you know, and torque as far as takeoff and stuff like that. And people actually have put it up against just a regular 750 watt Bafane, you know, gear hub, and they already said that yeah, the Bafane actually took off faster than the Lyric did, but the Lyric had better top speed and stuff like that, which of course you expect. Direct drives are actually rounded for better top end speed and stuff like that. But I was even disappointed in that one too, because a guy did a top speed run today on it, and now granted it's colder weather, you know what I mean, you also got winds and stuff like that, and that's gonna affect performance somewhat though. But he was having troubles getting 31 to 35, let alone getting it to 38 miles per hour and stuff like that. And that's actually even disappointed me even, you know what I mean, because I was actually expecting it to at least hit 37, 38, because I have ridden 1,500 watt direct drive motors, and even in the cold I rode it one time during the Christmas stuff, and I was getting 36, 37 miles no problem off that motor. So I'm actually kind of shocked on that one myself, you know what I mean. Now I'm not sure exact his weight is and stuff, but I imagine he's probably lighter than I am, so it's kind of, you know, I weigh over 200 pounds, and I think he's somewhere around, you know, probably 160 to 180 pounds. I don't know his exact weight and stuff like that, but that's what people were kind of saying though. So who knows, you know, he'll be probably the only one that can actually answer that question and stuff. But I was actually kind of disappointed on that one, because I was expecting at least that it would have good top speed, no problem and stuff like that, and essentially can't even do what, you know, or Aerial Grizzly can do. And the Aerial Grizzly can easily do 35 plus miles an hour, no problem at all whatsoever. So that's actually kind of a disappointment, because direct drives are usually better at, but I don't know how they tune the controller and stuff, because I don't have the bike in front of me. If I had the bike in front of me, then yeah, definitely I could go and do some lab testing and also do some actual real world testing and stuff, and see what the actual performance data on that bike would actually be. But you know, the only other way too to do it is actually to do it during the spring and summertime too, where the air is warmer, you don't got as much wind and stuff like that, and that will kind of give you the true performance of the bike, especially if you make sure you go and max out everything and stuff. So who knows, it could also be too the way they actually got the settings on the PAS levels on the actual control itself and stuff like that might be you know, hampering it a bit and stuff like that. So it could be the tuning itself that's the problem, you know. But either way it goes, 31 to 34, and I say it gets reliably probably about 34, no wind and stuff like that. You know, it's kind of disappointing. You know what I mean? Because even a 1500 watt direct drive hub, I was able to get it to 37, no problem. Of course, using a 18 MOSFET controller at 52 volts and stuff like that. So I know those motors are out now. They're using an actual, you know, less MOSFET control, so that might have a lot to do too with the performance and stuff like that, and the reason why they're not getting, it doesn't get up to the 37 very easily. So not to say it doesn't do 37, it could, but you know, it had a hard time just trying to get up to 34, 35. So that's one of the things I was looking at too. Now, what they should have done, in all honesty, I hope they do this on the next bike, is go 21,700, you know what I mean? And do a 60 volt if you're gonna do something semi-powerful above 2,000 watts, because you're just gonna get more performance out of it. You get more top end speed and everything else, and a direct drive hub will be able to handle 60 volts no problem with a very good controller and stuff like that. And add rear suspension, you know what I mean? Now they were talking about, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and do the Gates you know, belt system on the next bike, but it's pointless, you know what I mean? Because you still can't put gears on it. That's the problem, you know what I mean? Because you have a direct drive hub, and unless you put the hub motor in the front, which would be a very bad idea in my opinion, you know what I mean? Just because you're gonna run into other issues like with the front fork, you know, dropouts not being you know, thick enough to be able to handle that torque and stuff. Because let's face it, front forks are not designed to handle any kind of torque on them unless they're designed for it. And you know, there's only 1 or 2 forks that I've seen that are actually designed for the torque, and even then you run into issues with the actual, you know, stanchions on the actual suspension wearing out, because you got that torque going on, and now it's rubbing, even though you got the seal and stuff, more towards the metal, and they end up, what you call it, locking up over time and stuff like that. So it creates a whole nother set of issues that that they don't want to even get into, because it opens up a whole nother can of worms and stuff like that. So they were probably do gate and belt, probably do the same things, probably just gonna be a single, what do you call, speed and stuff like that. And that's the problem. You might just put the chain back, that's it. Put the chain back in a decent derailleur and stuff like that, and you'll be pretty good, you know what I mean? So what, people have to do a little maintenance and stuff like that, but having, you know, those gears on a 90-pound plus bike is very beneficial, you know what I mean? It's not like a light bike and you need those extra set of gears and stuff like that. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and conclude the video, and this will be the end of the video pretty much.